On the eve of a new American peace mission to the Middle East, President Reagan has told a press conference about his efforts to halt the violence in the Israeli-occupied territories.
I'm a McCain, I've been chip, tap, tap. Right for your kids and the old man. Present and chips from a chip hand. 40% less fat.
The occupied territory.
Hero Quest.
On the last day of Warhammer World 2021, GW announced Age of Sigmar 3rd edition and showcased new Stormcast Eternals miniatures included in the release box set. They also teased a new army that will be opposing the Stormcasts in this box set with a very cool animated video, leaving people on Twitter screaming, "Let this be Fimirs." Fimir is a forgotten race, in so many ways. Graham Davis, one of the original designers of WFRP, said the following about the creation of Fimir in this Usenet post. I showed Jess an Ilo of a Fomorian on the cover of a paperback book of Irish folktales, and we went from there. It all started when Brian Ansell decided that WFRP should introduce a new race to Warhammer World, to be as distinctive of Warhammer as Brew are of RuneQuest, were his exact words if memory serves. And to this end he came up with the Zodes, which everyone hated, but which he said would have to go in if no one could come up with anything better. And he did own the company, so we took the threat seriously. So as I say, Jess and I came up with the concept of Fimir. Jess did the designs and I did the culture and game stats, and in the end both Zodes and Fimir ended up in WFRP, and nobody much cares for either race. The popularization of Fimir wasn't helped by a communication foul-up, when Nick Bibby took over making the miniatures from Jess. Nick made them all ogre-sized, compared to Jess's and my idea that they should be orc-sized. Now we had big, expensive miniatures with low game stats, and nobody bought them. But somehow they stuck around, mentioned in books like Soul Down the River, Warhammer Armies 3rd edition, and Storm of Magic, among others. They also had a small but cool Forge World model line, and they even have an Age of Sigmar War Scroll. So, who exactly are they? Fimir are amphibian humanoids with a single eye and beak-looking mouths, who live in the bogs and shorelines of the old world. They dwell in strongholds built out of piles of rock, which resemble human fortresses in the midst of the bog. Sometimes they occupy abandoned castles and fortifications built by other races. The ones with magical abilities are able to generate a magical mist that conceals their castles. Having a single eye, they also use this mist to compensate for lack of depth perception. They determine how far something is by how visible it is in the mist. Fimir have a matriarchal society, with a Merg, a witch queen, sitting at the top. They are known to live for thousands of years, and they are the foundation of any Fimir clan. Below her are the male mages, Dirach, who have horned heads and smooth tails. They often lead the Fimir raids, being able to generate the magical mists. Below them are the warrior caste, Fim. They are distinguished by a bony, spiky tail. Among them one can recognize Fimir nobles, who wear cool capes and who had a cool Forge World mini released of them. They often decorate themselves with gold and gems, their favorite being a garment, because its color reminds them of human blood. Below the warriors are thralls, Shirl, smaller in size, and with smooth tails. Fimir seldom leave their castles, only in search for food and humans, whom they use in the dark rituals to the ruinous powers, which leads us to the most interesting part of their lore. Long before the rise of man, Fimir were favored champions of chaos. Their mages are gifted with an ability to see beyond the veil of reality. They are able to perceive the winds of magic that pierce the material world. But one day, their gods have moved on. The new race of man became their favorite plaything, leaving Fimir alone in their bogs. Fimir did not abandon their dedication to the Dark Gods, but developed severe jealousy for humanity. Fimir mages continue to make human sacrifices, hoping for the dark gods to answer their prayers, working relentlessly to break down the barrier between the mortal world and the realm of chaos. In Age of Sigmar War Scroll, there is no mention of chaos connection, and they have been labeled with the keyword destruction, which is interesting, and is one of the reasons why it is a possibility for them to be featured in a release box for AoS 3rd edition, that is going to primarily be set in Gur, the realm of beasts, aka the destruction world. Using them in Warhammer Fantasy has always been a treat. What can you not love? Giant beasts with a single eye, with club tails and giant clubs that attack from the fog. Super atmospheric and intense. Fimir are fun introductory monsters that could be part of your first introductory arc. You could set up their lair nearby the starting village, and players would be investigating the disappearances of villagers. Feel free to set up a misdirection so that the players get suspicious of a weird but completely innocent villager. You can even create a false pattern disappearances to lead your players on a wild goose chase before finally revealing the monsters that attack from the mist. In general, Fimir are an amazing monstrous race, and I would love to say that that is it and finish the video right here, but there is one major thing I have left out so far, and we have to address it. In the first iteration of Fimir in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 1st edition book, there exists a line of lore that has permanently stained these beasts as rape monsters. The text mentions that Fimir reproduce via rape of human women, which is overboard even for early Warhammer. I should mention that I don't believe rape was ever mentioned in any iteration of Fimir ever since, but it still deserves examination and criticism. Sexual violence against women is a direct or an implied aspect of several races in early Warhammer. A lot of people mention Beastmen, Slaanesh, and Norska alongside Fimir being guilty of this, but to be frank, while there is vagueness in some of these earlier books that could be interpreted as sexual violence against women and sometimes men, I haven't personally seen any direct mention of rape in the lore short of Fimir. I'm not the most educated in early Warhammer, so I would not be surprised if it was there, but I'm not really interested in going looking for it. Using sexual violence has always been an exploitative and lazy way of establishing evil characters. The main reason why is the way actual real-world victims of these crimes, both male and female, are treated in the real world. Dismissed, shamed, and blamed for wrongdoings of others. But this is not the channel where we go deep into inherent sexism of justice systems and the way toxic masculinity makes rapes of men one of the most underreported crimes ever. We speak about Warhammer here. There is zero reason why rape plot device is needed in vast majority of fictional stories. There is zero reason why Fimir have to rape women. They already have a narrative and stylistic reason to abduct humans, their jealousy and human sacrifices to the Chaos Gods. Their history of being abandoned by their gods and them still striving for their attention is very dark and engaging. No need to add rape into the mix. I don't think it is fair to label Fimir as rapists based on a single sentence of a 1995 book. A line I had to look very hard to find. Same goes for Beastmen, Slaaneshis, and Norskans. If nothing else, we deserve a reimagined Fimir AoS lore that does not have any rape mentions or implications. By the way, I'm not implying malicious authorial intent here. There are so many examples of not just out of place, but even hyper-eroticized rape scenes in modern and popular media. It would be unfair to put one line of female lore in the same group as, let's say, for example, Game of Thrones. It is a case of old media edginess that really wasn't cool back then and is not cool now. But bringing back to the original topic of the video, are the Fimir the secret race in that cool animated video? Probably not. Most likely these are silent people of Gur, the weird bug race mentioned briefly in Warhammer Underworld's Beastgrave. There are indicators of that, new breed of evil, weird multiple eyes in the bog, and, this new AoS art that is going to be, if I recall correctly, the new cover art of 3rd edition, with a bunch of Lovecraftian monsters and stuff. A lot of flesh, tentacles, eyes, not a lot of Fimir. But to be honest, I would very much enjoy seeing Fimir being, part of that secret silent people race. It would be cool to see Fimir in any capacity in Age of Sigmar, because despite being forgotten by both GW and Chaos Gods, we did not forget why it is dangerous to go alone into the misty bog.
And in South Africa, the clampdown by President Botha on 17 anti-apartheid groups has been widely condemned by other countries. America says it's appalled at the move, which is aimed at the United Democratic Front and other groups opposed to racial separation. That's the news at 7:33. Now it's time for Batman.
Stately Wayne Manor